Hey YouTube, I'm out in the wood shop again. This video is showing me building birdhouses and maybe even a bird feeder. I was on the phone with my mom the other day and she said she would like to have a birdhouse for, birds in the springtime. Like she likes to watch them and all that, they're pretty. And it got me thinking, I have a lot of pallets in the backyard that is just gonna sit there and rot if I don't do something with them. I hate throwing stuff like that away. That's kind of why I save it. I'm not a pack rat or anything, but I like saving stuff that can be reused for something. You know what I mean? And so I have some pallets back here. I have a heck of a lot more than that, but I'm gonna disassemble those and see what wood I get out of it. Some pieces are big and some are small. I'll walk over and show you kind of what I'm talking about here. Some pieces are smaller, some pieces are bigger. They vary a lot actually, and some of them are cracked and split, some of them have been busted, but I'm gonna take those apart and see where we are. I might need to take more apart, but let's get these things disassembled. And oh yeah, by the way, I just went to Google Images and found some birdhouses that I like that weren't like really complex, and they look like they'd be kind of easy to put together and would fit the wood size that I have. So that's what I'm building. Let's get these things disassembled and figure out what we've got. Here we are after about 2.5 pallets. That's a pretty fair amount of wood. It might even be enough that I need to build. I was gonna end up building about 2 birdhouses maybe and a bird feeder, depending on time and everything. The reason I went from the pry bars right there to the reciprocating saw is because these nails right here, these are called spiral nails. The ones that I was able to pry out seem to be on the smaller boards. And those are called ring shank nails, or what was in it was called ring shank nails. And they pry out a lot easier than these spiral nails do. These spiral nails, when you go to prying on them, they take the wood with them. The issue with using a reciprocating saw is these nails left behind. And they're also left behind and these top pieces as well. There's one right there. I can show you kind of example. You don't see it, but it's there. You can see where I cut it off. I had to do that because I tried prying the top piece, or the first couple of top pieces with the spiral nails, and it was just literally ripping the entire piece of wood in half. So that's why I had to do that. I'm gonna measure and see what I have in between the cracks and in between these holes and all that type of stuff. I might have enough. If I do, we're gonna move on to cutting this. The reason I had to stop the reciprocating saw is because well, you can't see that, but my battery's overheated from the heavy use because I didn't let up. I was pretty heavy on that thing for about 40 minutes and I didn't let up, so they're hot. Gotta let them cool down. Let me do my measurement right quick, and we might just skip on to cutting and preparing these for the birdhouses and bird feeder. Well, I ended up getting back home way later than I thought it was gonna be. I'm still gonna try to cut a couple of pieces of wood. I ended up having a lot. From those 3 pallets that I did, I have a lot of wood. Way too much actually. I have enough to make multiple birdhouses and multiple bird feeders. But I picked the stack of the best looking thick, the water board that we had. I picked the best looking stack of those, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut them right quick and kind of give you an idea of what they're gonna look like. I'm gonna cut everything obviously and then put it all together. So let's get it cut. So it's the next day. I ended up not cutting anything. I was more so experimenting, right? I wanted to get like kind of exact measurements because I ended up thinking I don't want these nail heads showing, and I was able to cut off, I only lost about, well, maybe that much wood total because I cut all the nails out, right? And I was able to make the birdhouse, and I have all the measurements and stuff. I'm about to show you that, but I was able to make the birdhouse perfectly minus the nails. The one I'm about to show you is kind of like a prototype. Or I was just messing around and I nailed everything together and it turned out really good. But I'll go ahead and show you the measurements and stuff so I can kind of make sense of everything. So this is the birdhouse that I ended up with. The top was originally going to be pointed is how I was going to do it, but I ended up making it flat so that if you wanted to hang it, you could just drive some little eye bolts in it and hang this thing up. The bottom ended up like that, and it's not sealed perfectly, and I did some research on that, and you don't want it sealed. You actually want it to be able to, you know, drain really well, because when the bird lays their eggs and the baby bird's in there, if it comes a good rain, you don't want them drowning. That would be awful. So I left all that kind of, there's a little gap there and a little gap there. Nothing can get up in there or anything like that. My plans just flew in the trash. That's perfect. That's where they don't need to be. But I ended up doing an 1 3/8 hole. The hole size really depends on the type of bird species you want to, you want to go in your house. I got way too in depth with this. It's kind of ridiculous, but that's what I ended up with. I think it turned out really nice. These are the wider boards. If you end up finding only pallets, like the wider board is this, let me go ahead and measure while we're looking at it. So the wider boards are 6 inches, okay? The smaller boards are 4 inches. You can make the same birdhouse with the measurements and everything that I give you. You're just gonna have to scale it down a little bit, if that makes sense. Like, it won't be as tall and all of that because the width is only 4 versus 6. But you'll have to do the scaling. I'm only gonna make these because I think this is a decent size. For the front and the back pieces, from the bottom to the very tip top, it's 13.5 inches. That's what I ended up cutting it. The angle, I only used a miter saw to cut all this too, by the way. I didn't use a table saw or nothing, so all you need is a miter saw to do this. But 13.5 inches from top to bottom. You only need a hole in one side, obviously. This is kind of something I drew. I chose an 1 3/8. Like I said before, it varies on the bird you're trying to attract. You can Google that. There's a chart. It's crazy. People get really in depth with this stuff. Anyways, like I'm doing. Anyways, the angle that I cut this at with a miter saw is 12 degrees. So I set this was a rectangle, obviously. It was a 13.5 inch piece. And I set my miter saw on 12 degrees and held it straight in there, cut it, flipped the board over, cut it again, and ended up with this. I just threw the scraps in the trash. For one side, I made it 14 1/16, and it doesn't matter which side. For the other side, I made it 14 9/16. Doesn't matter which side because you only got 2, right? For the bottom, I did 5 5/8, about 5 7/8. And for the top, the little top piece, I just used the regular board width and did an 1 3/8. With these measurements, you end up with a little bit of overlap. So what I did was, see how it's kind of squared right there? What I did was just lay this entire house. I went ahead and assembled everything. I assembled everything, except for the top piece, obviously. And then I laid it all in the miter saw, cut that off a 90 or whatever, 90 degrees. And then I put this on top, nailed it down. I did use galvanized nails. This is not chemical treated wood, it's heat treated. So that's nice. And you can sand it. You can see the lighter color right there. I'm thinking that if you sand it though, it's gonna do away with its kind of, like, heat treating it kind of helps it naturally weather seal and repel insects and stuff like that. I'm thinking, you need to research this, but I'm thinking that's how it works. And I'm thinking also, if you sand that off, then you do away with the weather sealing and whatever properties. They say it's bad to use weather sealer and stain and all that because of the bird. And I think I read somewhere you can use linseed oil to coat this, like, naturally for the bird. So that's that. I'm not getting in depth. You can Google that. I don't know much about birdhouses. Matter of fact, this is like the 3rd one I've ever built in my life, and I'm going way too in depth. But anyways, let's keep building. One more thing I want to note right quick. I didn't put a perch on it because I was reading online that birds grab the wood. If it's like natural wood like this is, they grab the wood and go in the hole. Says it's kind of unnecessary to have a perch, and it makes it easier for the predators to attack the birds. I don't know, I'm not an expert, that's just what I read. I also read that it's not necessary to clean this out. So a lot of people were putting like hinges on the bottom of this so they could open it out every year and clean the nesting material out. Read online too that it's not necessary. So I just wanted to address that in case you were building this and you wanted to add a perch or you wanted to add a clean out. If you did want to add a clean out, it wouldn't be too hard at all. You just put a hinge on the inside before you nail it, or you not nail it, but I guess you'd want to latch or something like that. Anyways, you can figure that out if you decide to do that. I did not, because it said it wasn't necessary. So I just wanted to address that right quick before we get started. I was going to mention right quick, you should drill your holes before you mount the bottom piece, just so you can get all the shavings out. You can leave them in there, I guess. The bird might like it. I have no idea. But I'm drilling my hole first so I can dump all the shavings out, because it does make a lot. And my hole is about 6 inches from the top. When the top piece not added, okay, I'm talking about with that not added, just this, it's 6.5 inches down, and in the center, which it should be about 2 inches, because it's 4 inches, or around 4 inches wide right there. So let me drill these holes and we'll get the rest of it finished. On these tops, I forgot to record because I was asked to go get pizza, so I went and got pizza. I wanted to mention to make sure that, okay, for example, some of these wide pieces are different widths. They vary up to 1/2 inch from what I've seen, from what I have. You need to measure what you have and make sure all of them are the same size before you begin cutting, and then realize that stuff's not the right width or whatever. The width's important because this is the width of the board, right? See how that's the same width? Some of them vary 1/2 inch. And if it's a 1/2 inch too big, that's fine because you can cut it off. But if it's a 1/2 inch too small, then you've got a problem. So as you can see, the measurements that I gave you were approximate on the bottom. Should have mentioned that before, but I figured you'd watch the video and kind of see how everything goes together. You can see the little gap there for air and water to leak through for the little baby birds. You're gonna have to trim these to fit, because, and you're gonna have to trim the top piece to fit as well, because you're kind of holding that angle, or like if you do it like I did it, you're holding the angle. So it's not gonna be exactly perfect. And by holding the angle, I'm talking about when you're holding the house to cut this part flat. If you decide to go that route, you could just end up, you know, making it a point if you're not going to hang it. But I like having either option. But yeah, you're going to have to trim that to fit and trim that to fit. As you saw, it was no big deal. Let's get this nailed, and then we're done with this. We can move on to the bird feeder. Here they are finished up. They all turned out really nice except for this one, and this is on me. I knew better, but I did it anyway. I drove a nail through the knot. Don't ever do that because it's more than likely going to bust. Sometimes you get lucky with kind of moist wood, but dry wood, no go. But I got all these houses, and look at the amount of wood that I have left over. This is just from 3 pallets. Isn't that amazing? And like I said, material is free. The pallets are free. You can get those just about anywhere if you ask. Paid a little bit for power. Didn't use too many nails. So overall, I'd say this is a good project. There are tons of things you can build with pallets. I chose birdhouses just because I had a lot of them sitting out there. I probably have over 20 or something like that. And my mom mentioned birdhouse, and I was like, ooh, I could get rid of some of my building some birdhouses. Next thing we're gonna build is some bird feeders. All right, guys. I scrolled through Google Images real fast of a pallet bird feeder, and I found one that I kind of liked. So I just pretty much looked at the picture and kind of guesstimated what would look right. If I cut 2 sets of them, so hopefully it turns out right. I just wanted to get it done quick because it's really late. I've been kind of working on this on and off for 2 days now. I just want to get it done. I'm going to put this together. You guys can see at the same time as I do if it's going to turn out right. If it turns out right, I'm going to build that one, and then I'm going to show you or tell you all the measurements. Let's get going just to see. I don't want to explain anymore because it might not work out right. So there's that. It turned out pretty much the way I thought it was going to. The only thing that I should have done was add an extra 1/2 inch, but that's not that big of a deal. You know, to like have 1/2 of an inch longer to cover that up. I don't see that being that big of a deal. Doesn't bother me that much. The only other thing I kind of messed up, I'm gonna have to put some wood filler. It can easily be fixed. Is this little split right here. I couldn't get the nail to go in. I was holding it at an angle and it kept shooting straight down. I'm not sure what was going on with that. I don't know if I wouldn't hold my tongue right or what. But all I gotta do is put some wood filler right in there. I'll snip that off, put a little bit of wood filler. You'll never see that. So let's go to the measurements of this, because that turned out pretty good. I mean, you know, considering I've never built a bird feeder before. The measurements are here. I'll set this kind of for reference. This piece right here. Can you see it? Yeah, you can see it. This piece right here is our side pieces, right? And it measures 2 inches by 5 inches. You need 2 of those. So 2 inches by 5 inches. You need 2 of them. Okay. This is our long side pieces there. You need 2 of those as well. They're going to be 2 inches by, I'm thinking 14. Yeah, 14 inches. So these 2 side pieces right here are 2 inches by 14 inches. Got those out of the way. This is obviously the piece that goes on the inside here. It is 7 inches long, and you just put a mark in the center and cut 2 45-degree angles, and that's how you get that. You need 2 of those. The bottom is one of the wider pallet pieces. It's going to be 14 as well, 14 inches long, about 6 inches wide. Bottom piece, you need just 1 of those. And last, these are your roof pieces. They are 13 inches, so they're an inch shorter. 13 inches by 2 7/8. And if you want to, you can add a 1/2 inch to one of these. I cut both of these the same size. But if you don't like that gap right there, which I don't know, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but if you don't like it, just add a 1/2 inch to this. You know, that's all you got to do. I'll go ahead and build that one, and then we'll call this video done. So there is bird feeder number 2 complete. I think the birds will be happy with it. And I think my mom will be happy with watching the birds be happy with it. So that's what makes it all worth it, right? It's interesting what you can make out of pallets. I've seen people make a lot of cool furniture and all kinds of tables and stuff like that. If you guys have any suggestions of something, well, let me rephrase that. If you guys made it this far in the video and you have any suggestions of something that you would like to see made out of pallets, I have a lot of pallets left and I would be open to it. Just let me know in the comments. I check comments and I reply to all that I can. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you.